Okay, so here we got Troshark. Here's his characters. Looks like he got 23% crit, 17% haste, 16% mastery, and 16% burst. He is playing Skybreaker's Fiery Demise. 218 item level. Okay, he's got the unused trinket, decent rings. A lot of gear that just doesn't have mastery on it. Okay, he's running Storm Elemental, so he is favoring the Skybreaker's Fiery Demise with Storm Ellie build. I'm not sure how I feel about it in Sanguine depths of all places, because there's not a lot of big packs, and then things tend to get a lot more drawn out towards the end. A lot of 2 to 3 target pulls. And then you have the Gauntlet. Now, the Storm Elemental is going to be good on the Gauntlet as long as you're utilizing your burst windows with Ancestral Guidance to do a lot of off healing. So sometimes that lines up. Okay, yeah. So he didn't start with any Maelstrom, which I would have recommended doing. All right, we're going to go normal speed now. I want to be able to see his Maelstrom generation, so I wonder if he has weak auras. Okay, no, he definitely does. Good. So they're doing a double pull here, and it would have been really good for him to start off with Maelstrom here. He's got the Flame Shocks. He's doing Primordial Wave on second target. Really good weak auras to be able to track what's going on here. Is this where he's going to Lava Burst? Okay, hold on. Did he let Primordial Wave buff drop? I didn't see him use it. So he's not using Flame Shock on cooldown, which for Primordial Wave, I definitely would. Flame Shock on cooldown during your Primordial Wave window, I'd want to try and get like 4 Flame Shocks out in total before I did the Lava Burst, and usually the 4th Flame Shock would be at like 1 to 2 seconds left if you did the timing. So he's got 3 seconds left on Primordial Wave here. He's got an Earthquake to put down. He had a Lava Surge charge, but he didn't Lava Burst here. So he wasted Primordial Wave instead. Now, I didn't see Lead by Example buff either. And I mean, like, Storm Elemental, you want to cast Chain Lightning and Earthquake spam as much as you can, but it is still a damage increase to get those like amazing amounts of Lava Burst out during your Primordial Waves. So I would still recommend to not waste Primordial Wave in these AoE situations. And hopefully he's going to be Flame Shocking on cooldown here. He's getting some good procs. Okay, he didn't need to hard cut. Okay, so here's something that he did here. So he's got 3 Flame Shocks up. And you remember how I just said you can get 4 Flame Shocks out before you Lava Burst? He's running Emony buff, so he's trying to get out as much damage as possible. But because he has a limited amount of time during the Lead by Example buff window, you want to get out as much as your damage as possible. And Stormkeeper is going to be doing more damage than this hard-casted Lava Burst that he did. So I would have done the Stormkeeper charges here to generate Maelstrom, put down Earthquakes, while I waited for Flame Shocks to come out. And see, here you have 4 Flame Shocks out. So it's completely possible to do it. And then use the Primordial Wave properly there in the end. The buff itself, when you consume it, to send out those Lava Bursts. So he did also get a refresh on Primordial Wave. Since he's running Emony, he's running double potency, which means he's able to run Tumbling Waves as well. Maybe that was his 4th Flame Shock there. But the timing of it would have been proper anyway. So he uses Storm Elemental here. If he keeps up his Flame Shock as much as possible, which is good, right? He's keeping up his Flame Shock, lowering the cooldown on Storm Elemental even during the Storm Ellie window. And now he used Storm Elemental as well during a time period where there wasn't a lot of mobs remaining. Like, it wasn't like a big AoE pull anymore, but he's still putting it on cooldown, which is good. And as long as he's maintaining multiple flame shocks, he's getting value out of the storm elemental because the flame shocks are reducing the cooldown on his storm elemental due to Skybreaker's fiery demise. He's going to flame shock here. I wonder if he's going to use Stormkeeper into... Yeah, he's going to use Stormkeeper here on one target. I actually would have saved Stormkeeper here because generally you don't pull a whole bunch of stuff in the next room, and you do a bigger pull outside of the room if you move past the pat that goes around in the circle over here. So I think this is not a good use of his Stormkeeper. And it doesn't look like they're pulling any of these mobs in here. So his Stormkeeper actually would have been a lot more useful in the next pack. Cooldown management. He's putting it on cooldown, which is generally a good practice, but not when you need a lot of damage for the next pull. You have a limited amount of interrupts in this group with the DK, the Druid tank, your interrupt yourself, Troshark, and then the Shadow Priest. Silence. So having to do as much damage as you can in this to lower combat time would have been more favorable. I think in the future, guys, if you guys are going to submit content like this that you guys want to be reviewed, consider getting a cast tracker like I have on my shaman, where you're able to see the casts themselves.
He's also our top.
Does he have hidden DPS meters or something?
Shaman.
They're actually behind. Okay, so his damage meters are like to the left of his bars here, and so if I took away my camera, you'd actually be able to see them. You see that? So because my camera's there, you can't really see the damage meter. But we'll do the overall afterwards. Maybe he'll go through his overall. So he did have Storm Elemental here for this pull, and he's going to have Stormkeeper for the next one. In a higher key, usually you would have Stormkeeper and Storm Elemental line up for that pull, and then have Stormkeeper for the next pull here. But it's still good that he used Storm Elemental on cooldown at least. But it also felt like it was pretty late too. Like, you saw there that the Storm Elemental was up for a little bit after combat had ended. So he used it quite late into the pull for that to happen. Now, he's letting Primordial Wave buff drop again. So this might be a reoccurring occurrence for Troshark, and I think he needs to either fix his UI so that he looks at his buff uptime for it, but he's wasting quite a lot of damage here. And I mean, like, he's on the GCD. If he used... actually, maybe he might not be able to. Yeah, so he used Lava Surge there. I think I saw Lava Surge leave his hands. But it was too late for Primordial Wave buff. So he had a bunch of Flame Shocks out, but he's letting Primordial Wave drop. And sometimes I make that mistake as well, especially when using Skybreaker's Fiery Demise. But his Flame Shock uptime is pretty good. So he's doing well with that, at least. Okay, so he's going to have Stormkeeper available for the Pride. He's also starting off with the Fleshcraft, which I think is a good idea. Sometimes I like to not use Fleshcraft until later into the Prideful, when healing becomes a little bit more scary. So hopefully their group has enough juice. It looks like the rest of Drew's doing fine. That was a really good AMZ from the DK, soaking up a lot of damage. So it looks like he's saving Stormkeeper for the boss itself, which is totally fine. In this low of a key, I probably would have done the same, especially because we're lusting the boss here. Now, he does have Storm Elemental up as well. He's precasting that, hopefully. Okay, so here's one thing. Lava Burst. He started off with a Flame Shock, but he could have started off with a precast Lava Burst. They're lusting, they're popping all their cooldowns, right? He even popped Spirit Walker's Grace, which normally I would do if I'm on my way to a pack and I still have to like precast Stormkeeper and I still have to like get in position, get into the right position. So sometimes I will use Spirit Walker. No, wait, he's running the Finesse Conduit that when you lust, you get 9 seconds of Spirit Walker's Grace. Okay, so that's why he has Spirit Walker's Grace here. On his bars, it's actually still on cooldown. So for a pull like this, I would have actually precasted Lava Burst into a Flame Shock to put Lava Burst on cooldown. Because you see he got a Lava Surge proc right away there, and then he wasted recharge time. He's Primordial Waving into a Lightning Bolt, so this is fine. So he's doing actually really good. He's top damage right now in his burst window. And he's also using Lava Burst on cooldown, which right now, even in 9.0.5, I still think Lava Burst is going to be really, really strong to use even during Storm Elemental window. The only time I probably wouldn't use it if we had a certain amount of crit rating, and as it stands with the amount of gear available in 9.05, I don't think that we're going to be able to have enough crit to only cast lightning bolts during Storm Elemental, but we'll see. We'll see what that looks like when the time comes. So they could just completely destroy this boss. The Shadow Priest is wrecking it now. Wow, that still hit him. Okay. So he has Stormkeeper and his unused Trinket coming back up here, which is great. And his Storm Elemental has about 25 seconds left on it. So he's going to have enough AoE here to do some good damage in this next pack. Because this next pack can be pretty scary. He starts off with a Stormkeeper precast. He's going to start spreading his Flame Shocks. Put out the Lava Burst. So he also got a reset proc on his Primordial Wave, and you can see he has Primordial Wave buff here. So he's doing exactly what he needs to in this lead by example window where he has the intellect buff. He's putting out his Stormkeeper Chain Lightning Bolts and his Earthquakes to maximize damage. I actually want to rewind that a couple seconds there. So another problem that I saw him do is, yeah, damage meters are under the camera. He's doing the top damage right now at 10.6k, but he just wasted Primordial Wave, which is a no-no. Like, he just wasted so much Lava Burst and Maelstrom generation for literally no reason other than to press Primordial Wave again, which definitely was the wrong play here. So what he could have done is Flame Shock spread. Okay. Like, he could have had Flame Shock on 4 targets. Like I've said before, during a Primordial Wave window, you can have 4 Flame Shocks out, but he's getting resets. He completely wasted a Primordial Wave buff, didn't Lava Burst in between pressing those, but I guess maybe he wanted to get lead by example buff uptime, but he could have prolonged getting this buff again by not wasting damage and not casting Lava Burst. So this was a pretty big mistake here in this pull. And he just overcapped Maelstrom. So he's at 70 Maelstrom here. He's got 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 Flame Shocks out. I can't really see too much. That might be Earthquake debuff back there. So he's got 3, maybe 4 Flame Shocks out. He's about to Lava Burst here to consume this Primordial Wave. And he doesn't use his Maelstrom before he does that. If he used his Maelstrom here, he actually would have dropped an Earthquake, used Lava Burst, and then generated 40 total Maelstrom again. And depending on overloads and stuff, he could have had enough Maelstrom potentially to drop a second Earthquake here, but he wasted Maelstrom. He is getting back-to-back procs though, so that kind of made up for that, but he could have gotten more damage out from more Earthquakes. So he uses Storm Elemental here, which I do not agree with. Although Storm Elemental will technically be up for the next 3-pack pull, which is the oppressor, and which is 2 oppressors and another guy. So he's using Storm Elemental a lot on cooldown, but it's not necessarily like the best usage on Storm Elemental based off the health of the mobs. He's not running Echoes of the Great Sundering, he's running Skybreaker's Fiery Demise. He still has Storm Elemental up for a little bit of time for this guy here, which is pretty okay. But I would hope, you see, yeah, Storm Elemental's going to come up for this next, the Grand Overseer and the 2 Oppressors. Because you can see down here on his Shift 8 keybind, he's got about 25 seconds left on the cooldown on it. So he's going to be able to spread some Flame Shocks here, completely reduce the cooldown on Storm Elemental even further, and have it up for a decent amount of time for this pull. It's good he's not Maelstrom capping here. I need him a Flame Shock. Yep. Lava Burst spread. That's really clean. And now he's got Storm Elemental up. So if he uses it here, it'll be good. Okay, good. Use on the Storm and the Grand Overseer. Perfect. Yep. That's good. So maybe the Storm Elemental usage on the last pack was okay. That's really good. Yeah, he's top damage right now. He's doing good. Keeping Flame Shocks up. Man, this dot along with Grievous is really hurting them. Alright, they made it. So they have to actually wait for the Pat to pull this mob pack here. Because the Pat's right behind it, so they're waiting a little bit. Yeah, his Uyghurs do look good, dangerous. Okay, so he's got Stormkeeper available. Okay, so he Lava Bursted to consume Primordial Wave buff there, when I actually would have preferred he use Stormkeeper to buy time for his second Flame Shock to come off cooldown and then put on the Oppressor before he used his Primordial Wave. Because it's a 3-target pull here, right? Elemental Shaman's not that great at 3-target pulls, but we heavily rely on Flame Shock spread and Lava Burst cleave in this kind of situation. So I definitely would have used Stormkeeper here and his unused Trinket to buy some time, generate some Maelstrom, and put down some Earthquakes, but he used the Primordial buff a little bit too early. Now he's using it. He's getting some good Aftershock procs here. Keep up these Flame Shock spreads. He's got silenced here. He needs to refresh Flame Shock on the Oppressors, which is good. Now he's in a 2-target situation, so hard casting Lava Burst is completely fine. I feel like he's a little bit slow when it comes to tab targeting or like targeting on Flame Shock spreads. Interrupted some casts there with with your Storm, your Thunderstorm knockback, which I think is a good play. But his kick was on cooldown, so he couldn't interrupt the curse right away. So the mob kind of stood in the Sanguine for a little bit too long. Okay, so he does have Stormkeeper coming up here. He's going to have some damage. He uses unused Trinket. He uses Storm Elemental. This is really big damage. I also, okay, for him, he hasn't used Ancestral Guidance once this key yet, even in his burst windows. So, like, that's a big problem. You're picking this talent, but you're not utilizing it in situations like this where the party's taking a lot of damage and you are doing a lot of damage, and you can convert that damage into healing so easily. It's off the GCD. Press the ability. Like, this entire pull here would have been no problem at all. The healer would not be stressing if you used AG earlier. You used it now, but all the mobs are dead now. Your damage, your burst window is completely over, and you like, the amount of healing that you're doing really isn't that great. You would have completely topped everybody. You would have been doing more healing than the actual healer. You need to be using Ancestral Guidance during your Storm Elemental and your Stormkeeper window. That's the highest burst potential. And so you're going to be doing the most healing. Alright, so now they have a Manifestation of Pride. Storm Elemental is going to be up for a little bit. Like maybe 2 casts and then he's gone, you know. So right now with the scaling of Call of Flame, we don't have enough time to cast 2 Eye of the Storms back to back in a single, well, not back to back, but within the time frame of a single Storm Elemental's duration. It's probably going to scale in 9.1 to be able to get 2 Eye of the Storms within a single Storm Elemental, which is going to be extremely powerful. So he didn't use Stormkeeper here, which is good. I think that's fine. So he's got Storm Elemental coming up. It'll probably come up at some point during this poll. This is actually a really good skip. A lot of groups do this. And the thing about the Depths Wardens too, Shaman actually can solo their Shackle Kick. If they interrupt at 0.2 seconds or 0.1 seconds, you can get every single Shackle. Yeah, you can get every single interrupt. He's got Storm Elemental coming up. He used his Primordial Wave buff way too early. He only had 2 Flame Shocks out in the 3-target scenario. He should have used 3rd Flame Shock and then used the Primordial Wave buff. So again, the Depths Wardens, Shaman can solo kick them. They can solo their interrupt, but they have to interrupt at like the last like 0.2 seconds remaining on the cast. So this is good. The Storm Elemental is still alive. He's still putting out some damage. He's still stacking up his cast time reduction. He uses Primordial Wave here, which is good. I think that's a great use of it. The Scribe and the Fury, they're taken pretty slow, but he's also getting like Primordial Wave resets. I don't think he should use Primordial Wave. Oh, okay. That was a lot of resets. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he had a lot of lead by example uptime, and he's getting really, really lucky with Tumbling Waves here. So he used 3 Primordial Waves casts within this mob pack. He should not use another one though. He should definitely save it. Okay, I think he recognized that. That's good. So he's going into the next pack with his Primordial Wave off cooldown. He was gambling there. Oh my god. He was gambling pretty hard. I think this is a really bad use of Stormkeeper, in my opinion. They definitely should have pulled the Visage of Doubt into the next pack, because they haven't gotten close enough to the Sentinel to see if it spawns. Okay, so this didn't spawn, but they just did 1 mob. They definitely should have pulled the Scribe the Feather and the Visage of Doubt into that guy. And now he doesn't have Stormkeeper for this next pull. Okay, so here's the thing. He has Storm Elemental available, but he doesn't have Stormkeeper. So that was a very bad use of Stormkeeper. Because they're going to do this big pull here. He's only going to have Storm Elemental for it. So he's spreading Flame Shock, which is good. He can definitely spread 2 more Flame Shocks here. He can Primordial Wave his Flame Shocks off cooldown. Okay, so he's doing that. He got a reset on Primordial Wave. What the? Okay, am I looking at that right? So he targets. He presses Flame Shock, then he Primordial Waves the 3rd target. Okay. He doesn't Lava Burst here. But instead, he targets another mob. And then he Primordial Waves. He's wasting so many Lava Burst casts. Oh my god. Shark, man. That's bad. That's not good. You don't want to be wasting this many Lava Bursts. It's free damage, and you're just wasting it. And now you have the ability to spread 5 flame shocks because your primordial wave reset again, and you actually would have been doing way more damage here than the priest. Unfortunately, the priest is doing 11.3k, and you're doing 9.1k. You definitely would have been doing more damage here than the priest if you were using primordial wave properly. You had it reset. You could have gotten 5 flame shocks out there. You wasted a lot of lava burst damage. Okay, but he does have primordial wave going into the next pull, so that's good. And they had a death, unfortunately. So he's got primordial wave. He's got storm elemental coming up. This sentinel's probably going to come to life. They might solo it. Okay. Yeah, they're going to solo it here. I don't think he should be using Stormkeeper. So if he does use Stormkeeper here, it's a mistake. Yeah, he uses it here. He's got a 3 mob pull next. He didn't use primordial wave to apply flame shock first. He should have done that. He's gonna have storm elemental for next pull, but honestly, in a higher key, you probably would have pulled this sentinel into the warden, the scribe, and the fury, if your group had all their cooldowns. And Troshark had his storm keeper up, he had his ancestral guidant up, and he had storm elemental coming up within like 25 seconds. So depending on flame shock spreads and proper use of that, he would have had storm elemental up within definitely 10 seconds in time to use with his other cooldowns, just prepping the pull and doing a lot of damage, and then using ancestral guidance for a lot of healing. He could have soloed the warden. So in a higher key, you definitely would have pulled the sentinel into the other 3-pack over here. You need to make up that time. Yeah, he's using skybreakers right now, Ryan. So he's going to use storm elemental here alone, spread some flame shocks, get some damage out. So he's doing good damage because storm elemental right now is kind of carrying his damage. He's going to spread primordial wave to the 3rd target. Hardcast lava burst, which is totally viable to do here, and even in a 3-target scenario. If you're consuming primordial wave, it's completely worth hardcasting lava burst. So he needs to refresh his 3rd flame shock here to keep that active. So he used Stormkeeper here with his on use. So now he's not going to have Stormkeeper for the next pull. And he let Flame Shock come off. Drop off that 3rd target. The point of keeping Flame Shock up and using it on cooldown is to reduce the cooldown of your Storm Elemental as much as you can. And especially in these 3-target scenarios where it's not necessarily worth just chain casting Chain Lightning and Earthquake. Why is he playing Storm Elemental in the first place? Because he wants to. Storm Elemental is going to be really, really good in 9.05 because we're not really using Echoes of the Great Sundering anymore. All right, so he's doing a lot better of a job actually maintaining his Flame Shocks here. So this is good. Yep, he's using it on cooldown. Yeah, Storm Elemental is definitely not bad now, especially now that we have a lot more crit and haste. Yeah, he's doing really good maintaining his Flame Shocks here. Well done. Well done, Troshark. So he's got Storm Elemental up here. Is he going to use Storm Elemental on this Pride? No, he's not. Looks like he's saving it for the boss. Okay. I definitely would use I would move up to where all these mobs are and start flesh crafting once this prideful got a little bit more scary. Oh, he's moving with that debuff. I don't like it when melee move. You're losing uptime on the prideful and you're making other people stop what they're doing. So if you're if you're in a pug and you see somebody do this where they're just like moving with the prideful buff or with the prideful debuff, yell at them nicely. So now they're going into the boss. He's going to use Stormkeeper here, or Storm Elemental. He's going to Bloodlust, so they got a lot of damage going out. Doesn't have Stormkeeper available right away, but the ad's going to spawn. I actually would have saved... So he did use Eye of the Storm right away on this boss. I actually would have saved Eye of the Storm for when the ad spawned. Twice as much damage on the Eye of the Storm. Plus, really good damage for the ad, because that ad needs to die right away. Because you're only going to get one cast of Eye of the Storm during Storm Elemental right now. So, because of the scaling of Call of Flame. So it's always best to understand and know when the best time to use that Eye of the Storm is on a boss encounter or a fight encounter. If mobs are going to spawn. So here he's actually precasting fire or lava burst into a flame shock on the first target, which is totally great. And then he uses primordial wave on the second. Does a second lava burst cast, but he did get a reset on primordial wave, which is completely fine. He might be saving it for the next pack, or maybe he didn't notice that he got a reset. A reminder, guys, if you guys are going to be interested in submitting your own footage for critiquing, for analysis, you have to be either a Patreon supporter, or a Twitch subscriber. And if you are one of those, and you haven't connected your Discord to your Patreon or your Twitch account, I recommend doing that so that you can have those selected roles and have access to the channels where you submit the gameplay analysis. The gameplay footage for the analysis. He's going to use Stormkeeper here, which I think it's a little too late to do that. He does have Storm Elemental up and available to use, but he's going to be saving it for the boss fight. I also would have saved Stormkeeper for the boss fight, just to use all your cooldowns on the pull. Stormkeeper is a relatively low cooldown itself, but there's no way to lower it, right? Hoping to get a vid tonight for you. Well, we're probably going to do your vid tomorrow on Tuesday. All right, Reinhardt? So during tomorrow's stream, we'll do your video. All right, skip ahead here a little bit. So, and they end up waiting for cooldowns anyway, which is super strange. Like, they wait to pull this boss the entire time. Let me see if I can see what... There's no communication in chat. There's nothing. Maybe they're in Discord, but like, they waited a super long time to pull this boss. And it looks like they wait for Stormkeeper to come up. Maybe that's a coincidence, but like, you wouldn't have had to wait that long if you just didn't use Stormkeeper in the last pull. Okay, so he's not using his abilities while he's moving. Instead, he goes into Ghost Wolf, which in my opinion is a huge mistake. Yes, Spirit Wolf is reducing the amount of damage that you're going to do, but you're likely going to come out of this Rite of Supremacy with the damage reduction of the orbs that you pick up, and you're just going to be casting on the boss anyway. So rather than you wasting potential damage and not using your GCDs while on the move, you're just using Ghost Wolf. And then you immediately come out of Ghost Wolf. You don't even utilize the damage reduction anyway, so that it was a complete waste. And you weren't casting on the move, which means your damage uptime was really low here. So you had Earth Shocks available. You could have refreshed Flame Shock. You could have used Frost Shock. You could have put it down a Healing Stream Totem to eat up time on GCDs while moving and collecting those orbs. And you have Spirit Walker's Grace as well. So I don't even know when you used that. When did you use Spirit Walker's Grace? Okay, so you had Spirit Walker's Grace available, and you use it after. Okay, so you use it here to continuously move. So your damage uptime actually would have been really well if you were using GCDs while collecting your orbs, and then use Spirit Walker's Grace, yes, to dodge the swirlies on the ground. Your damage uptime would have been perfect. I also don't agree to use Earth Elemental here. I think that's a waste. Earth Elemental is way better to use in the Gauntlet. So you had Lava Burst available to use here on to eat up GCD. The Lava Burst would have given you 60 Maelstrom, and then you could have Earth Shocked as well. But you went into Storm, you went into Ghost Wolf form anyway and silenced yourself. This is just nitpicking. It's completely nitpicking. He is doing the top damage on the boss, which is great, but he would have been doing more damage. Yeah, you definitely would have had enough time to collect all 3 of those orbs that you had while maintaining your damage and using GCDs. Now he's moving on GCDs. That's great. Now he's doing that. He used Storm Ellie here. I actually would have prolonged Storm Elemental Burst window to use while he had... Like, I would have definitely used Storm Elemental there to put it on cooldown. But I would not have used his Eye of the Storm. Actually, like, I would have prolonged all of this. I would have sat on my cooldowns because the boss died super quick there, and he used Storm Elemental Sky, Stormkeeper, and his unused Trinket, and then the boss died within like 10 seconds. So like you definitely would have had enough damage without your cooldowns to be able to push the boss down and kill them, and then you would have had all of your cooldowns on top of your Ancestral Guidance and your off healing for this pull right here. So I think that was an improper use of his cooldowns. He should have held on to them and used them here. You would have had a way better use of them. Especially because the tank has to kite a lot of these mobs. There's Gargons, there's the Oppressors, the Huntsmans, okay? And the Dreadful Huntsmans, they will spawn images, which will do a little thrust. So here's what could have happened actually. If he used his cooldowns here, he could have saved. Okay, we're going to move a little bit more forward. If he used his cooldowns here, I think the tank actually died right off the pull. So he could Earthbind Totem here, okay? Then pop a Capacitor Totem. And this allows the tank to kind of thrash, swipe, generate some rage, then apply an Iron Fur or Frenzied Regen if he needed to, right? Because the mobs are CC'd, right? And if Troshark would have had Troshark, you're actually here, Troshark, if you would have had your cooldowns going into this pull, you had enough off healing to keep the tank alive and reduce stress on the healer. So you do cap totem, but I think you cap totem late. You definitely should have capped totem a lot earlier here. You could have led with an Earthbind Totem so that they grouped up in this hallway. You cap totem, which is great, but I think you cap totem way too late here. And then all of his, like, he dies immediately here out of this stun. I don't know if you were in Discord with this guy or what was going on, but he was pretty, like, he had some health missing but I think you would have topped him up with your cooldowns and Ancestral Guidance. So we could have prevented this death for sure with a little bit better cooldown usage and communication if you were in Discord. Like people completely underestimate the power of Ancestral Guidance during cooldown usage. Completely underestimate. And so you guys suffer a lot of back-to-back deaths here. So now you have Storm Elemental up here, and you used AG. I can't recall where you used AG. I was scratching my eye. You do have Storm Ele here, and you sit on it. You're going to have to watch the video, because I don't want to really repeat what I've said so far. So yeah, you guys wasted a whole lot of time here. You do have 14 minutes left. Wait, do you have 14 minutes left in the dungeon? Yeah, you have 14 minutes left in the dungeon, which I think is plenty enough time to go through the Gauntlet and complete the last boss. So you guys are still on track for the kill. You're thoroughly enjoying this review. That's great. That's good news. Perhaps that means there'll be more to come. So you sat on your Storm Elemental, which means you have it up here, and you used your Stormkeeper as well. Primordial Wave reset happens. You have Elite by example. You're using it great with your uptime on your damage here. You break your change. Now you can use your Primordial Wave again to deal some more damage. Instead though, this is where I think you mess up a little bit, because you're not tab targeting to spread your Flame Shocks. Instead you're clicking on things. You kind of messed up here because you put your Flame Shock on cooldown and then you immediately Primordial Wave the same target. But your Flame Shock's gonna actually run out here on this guy. You're still going to get a Lava Burst spread, but you put your Flame Shock on cooldown. You wasted the GCD on it anyway by refreshing it into a target that already had Flame Shock. So, and then that also causes you to then wait for your Flame Shock to come off cooldown, put it on the target that you were supposed to put it on, and then Lava Burst to spread your consume the Primordial Wave buff. So you wasted a couple GCDs on low damage spells instead of prioritizing and targeting the right enemies. Definitely would use Thunderstorm here, but position myself in a way where it wouldn't be knocking back into Sanguine. But it looks like you guys are fine. Good. Scary pull. Okay, you got some good damage here. So you have your badge unused. You got your Stormkeeper up. You're utilizing a lot of damage. You used Primordial Waves. You had a lot of uptime. You had good Lava Burst damage during your badge buff. So you had a lot of really good damage into this priority target here. So that's good. I wonder if Hymir, the Bonesmith, works better with Storm Elemental with the crit buff. Marrow Gemstone, if you use Marrow Gemstone correctly with a cancel aura macro, you can actually do insane amounts of burst damage if you time the buff correctly in your burst windows. Like it's actually really, really good. So I think I'm gonna make a video on it come 9.05, how to properly burst with the new changes. Definitely going to make a video on that for you guys. So you have all of your damage for this. This is great. I would lead with the Earthquake. You use AG as well. You're going to be popping off on both off healing and damage here. This is amazing. You're doing 17k. You're definitely doing a lot of over healing, but that's okay because the tank is taking a little bit of damage. He's doing a lot of his own healing, but the fact of the matter is that you used Ancestral Guidance with your cooldowns, which is where it matters most. So even though you did a lot of overhealing, you were still... It was kind of like a security. It was kind of like a security deposit of healing. So the Gauntlet is where Earth Elemental is utilized the most. especially during these Sanguine scouts or the cadets. This is definitely where I would use Earth Elemental. You had it off cooldown, but because you don't have a keybind, your reaction speed on this is very, very slow. You could have prevented the tank death. You could have prevented your own death. You could have prevented the DPS death by using Earth Elemental on that pull after Storm Elemental had disappeared. And Earth Elemental is not like trees. It's not going to generate it's not going to taunt everything instantly and just have aggro on it. Its taunt is kind of like a threat generator. It's not a hard taunt. So you had Earth Elemental up there? I would recommend keybinding Earth Elemental. That way your reaction speed can be better. Nine minutes left. You guys definitely had a lot more time going into the Gauntlet, but you wasted a lot of time with, I think, the silly deaths, which you can attest to. Poor cooldown management, and a lot of tank damage. This is good here. You did a lot of burst. Did a lot of AoE here. But you would have been past this already had you used Earth Elemental on the pull. Where the cadets were brought in to call. This is a little bit scary because now you have Prideful. Healer's at half mana. But I think you guys can do this. If things get scary, I definitely would use your Fleshcraft here. And I can't wait for Fleshcraft to be buffed. Like, it's going to be... Fleshcraft is actually going to be so useful during Prideful. Or just self-sustain. It's going to be very, very strong. So this guy has the debuff on the Druid. The healer has the debuff. And I think he's actually in a position where he's going to hit you with this. Oh, no. You missed. So you guys all go into the AMZ, which is good. You guys are taking a lot of damage, though. And you get stunned here, and I think you might die. Oh, that was so close. That was so close. Now you guys got the buff. Storm Elemental's coming off cooldown. Going into a cadet pull. You don't have Ancestral Guidance, but you do have Capacitor Totem. So I definitely would lead into this pack with Capacitor Totem and then use Storm Elemental. Cadets are very, very scary because they buff each other with a stacking buff, where they increase their damage based off how many cadets are nearby. So use Capacitor Totem here on the casters, which is good, but that also lines up all of their casts as well. The tank is actually doing a really good job here of line of sighting these acolytes. But we don't have a whole lot of damage out on these mobs. So this is a very scary pull. Not only that, they are standing in Sanguine, and the entire group should be line of sighting them to bring them forward. So you guys are all just taking a lot of damage here for no reason. You do pop your Stormkeeper, which is good. You got a lot of Earthquakes going up. And you got one more Acolyte left. Two more Acolytes left. You're focusing the Acolytes here, which I think is the correct play. But the Gargon's also slapping you in the face, and then you die. That's a good use of Ankh. Hopefully your group can clean up these Acolytes. Gargons can be a little scary. Okay. Tank uses the shield. That's good. He was able to top himself up too. Are those Acolytes still out there? Yeah, there's still one left. Okay. This is definitely a time where I would use Fleshcraft, but you guys push call, which is good. You're going to be able to clean this up. And then I would start building Maelstrom on these Gargons as well while you're walking. You could use Spirit Walker's Grace here. That's a fine time to use it. And then you could build Maelstrom in anticipation for the next pack. That way you can start off with an Earthquake right away. You have Ancestral Guidance up. You can do a lot of AoE, a lot of off healing. And you start off with Stormkeeper too. So you immediately Earthquake, you Stormkeeper, get all your Maelstrom back. Then you Earthquake again. while using Ancestral Guidance. It's good. You're in the shield. You got the buff. Still a lot of damage. I think the Gargons were also meleeing you, because they just came. Here's the thing about melee. Casters, or being in melee, you generate threat higher if you are within melee range of the mobs that you're attacking. You generate threat faster, you generate more threat. So if you are ranged and you are doing a burst window, or you have a lot of earthquakes out, and the tank, like there's mobs that are coming in like this, like these Gargons are constantly padding in, but you're in melee and you're constantly putting out AoE damage, you're very likely, if the tank is not keeping an eye on the Gargons coming in, you're very likely to just generate threat too quickly on these mobs that are coming in, and they can just attack you, and you could die because of that, because you're in melee and you're generating higher threat. So definitely keep an eye on that. And that goes for everybody. I face the same problem because I'm so used to playing Blood of the Enemy. And so I was in melee a lot of the time as a DPS shaman in BFA, so I was so used to it. And even now that I'm playing Storm Elemental, it just brings me back and brings back bad habits of playing within melee, because I'm thinking I'm playing with Blood of the Enemy again, which is totally not what's happening. And that's a really bad habit, and I need to break that. So you get really good Maelstrom, not Maelstrom, but resets here. So I definitely would Flame Shock. You have your Flame Shock available, but where do you? Okay, you don't use it. You don't refresh on the Skirmisher. You had a Primordial Wave rebuff, so you let the Skirmisher drop. You sit on Flame Shock for another little bit. So what I would have done here is I would have refreshed Flame Shock on the Skirmisher, then Primordial Wave the weapon. I would have Chain Lightning to get 60 Maelstrom, and then I would have used my Lava Surge proc to use the second Primordial Wave buff. I want to see where you use your first Primordial Wave buff, though, because you have a tendency to actually waste Primordial Wave a lot in these dungeons from what I've seen. Okay, so no, you use it here, which is fine, but you let Flame Shock drop off the Skirmisher. So yeah, I would exactly what I said. I would have refreshed the Flame Shock on Skirmisher, then Primordial Wave the weapon, and then a Chain Lightning into an Earthquake, and then Lava Burst to generate all my Maelstrom back. And then drop another Earthquake. I know this is a dumb question that never should be asked, but I don't know what class to main, and I'm getting back into it, and I've always been switching classes nonstop, but I want to, like, just play one guy. Any tips? I think you need to find a class that you gravitate towards. And no matter what happens to that class in balancing, you're going to just love playing it. And that's how I feel, along with a lot of other people. That's how we feel when it comes to Shaman, because we love the playstyle, we love the aesthetics, we love the casting animations and the history of Shaman, and that's why we play it so much, even if it's not that great sometimes. And so I think you need to find a class that gives you that same feeling. It's okay to be an altaholic, but it feels way better when you find a class that you just love so much. So unfortunately, you guys are not going to time this key, because you're also missing Prideful for the last boss. So you're only at 91 enemy forces. You guys are not going to time this key. You're missing your Prideful. Your count was off. You should have cleared more within the second boss area ring zone, and then you would have had Prideful going into the last boss. You guys messed up a lot in the Gauntlet. And you also stood between the two guys that were marked, giving you the bleed debuff. So when Call dashes between the two marked targets, anybody standing within those targets also gets the bleed. So now you have it. And it's not going to drop until the shield goes off. You can also dodge this by ghost wolfing. So I think that's what you might do here. You press astral shift. No, you just generate. Okay, so you can completely dodge that bleed on you by just ghost wolfing and moving and using. By the way, it's a lot easier when you use Thunderous Pause Conduit, which is a finesse conduit. I highly recommend you guys use that in your soulbind trees, because it's very, very useful for these kind of things and dodging mechanics and helping you finish casts before you need to move out of a dangerous swirly on the ground, because it gives you just enough movement speed to be able to do that sometimes. So you can actually dodge this mechanic and not incur the bleed debuff by just ghost wolfing and then running away from, just running to the side. It's going to take a little bit of practice and timing, but it's completely doable and very easy to replicate. Yeah, you can actually dodge that ability. So right here, I would have ghost wolfed it and then moved left. Like, as soon as that beam landed and I was out of it, I would have ghost wolfed it and then ran to the left. So there's a certain timing that you'll get used to. Because you guys are taking so much damage from this dot. And then you gained a second dot there because you were in the path of the charge. The healer died. You're at 2 stacks right here. You Earth Elemental. I would have used Hardened Skin right away. Okay, you did. You needed to do that in order to survive this. So the healer comes up, but you're at 2 stacks. Like, you definitely could have avoided this amount of damage. So you guys are about to drop the debuffs, which is great. But you can very easily dodge this. Yeah, this is the ability that you want to dodge. So I would have come over here. I would have ghost wolfed it and then moved right as soon as this beam went off. As soon as that beam went off, I just ghost wolf, move right. And then you would have dodged that ability. And then you wouldn't have died there. Because you also took the beam. You also took the beam damage. I said that so weird too. Ghost wolfed. We're not talking about the beams, Pisces. We're talking about the mark that General Call puts above 2 players' heads, and then he charges at them and puts a bleed on them. You can dodge that. So this right here, you can ghost wolf and then move to dodge it. It's ghost wolfed. Okay, cool. Nice. All right, so now you're gonna have to go back and kill enemy forces, right? Just to complete the key and then go back and get your loot. So the moral of the story is a lot of primordial wave wastes, a lot of cooldown, poor cooldown management. Which is fine. I mean, like, you were trying out Skybreakers, you were trying out Storm Elemental because you heard the patch notes, and it's going to be good, but you need to practice this build a little bit more. Your Flame Shock uptime could use some work on various amounts of mobs. You definitely need to work on Primordial Wave. I think that's a good first submission video. I think that's great. I think a lot of people can learn from this. More of these are going to be put up on YouTube for sure. And if you guys are watching from YouTube and you're interested in this kind of content, but you also want to support what we're doing here at the Barokoshama Twitch channel, the Barokoshama YouTube, definitely hit that subscribe button. Like the video if you like it. Comment down below what you guys want to see next, whether it's boss videos, dungeons, PvP, analytic, or analysis and gameplay, critiques and reviews. Let me know. If you guys want to submit your own footage for reviews, you either have to be a Twitch subscriber or a Patreon supporter, any tier of Patreon. You'll have to connect your Discord settings or your Discord account to your Patreon account. And if you're a Twitch subscriber, you need to go into your Discord settings, into your connection settings in Discord, and connect your Twitch account so that you have access to the certain channels that allow you to submit these videos. So yeah, this was a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to do this a lot more. I think it's a really great idea. It brings in a lot more I think, relatable content to the YouTube channel, not just guides and gameplay of myself, but I want to be able to help you guys even more by releasing this kind of content. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Hope you like it. Until next time, keep calm and Maelstrom on. Bye-bye.